So guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video I am going to be showing you guys this game between Gukesh and Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen is the current best chess player in the world and Gukesh is the current world champion. Magnus Carlsen rating is 2837, Gukesh is 2787, and in this game actually Gukesh managed to beat Carlsen. So let's see how he has done that. E4, E5 and knight f3, knight c6, all standard moves. But now Gukesh goes for bishop b5. This is actually kind of surprising because Gukesh usually goes bishop c for the Italian game. Now he has won bishop b5, turning it into the Ruy Lopez, and knight f6 played, just attacking this one. And by the way, I want to tell you, if black played some move like random move like h6, it appears that we can tactically win this pawn, but there's a tactic around it. So bishop takes c6, d takes c6, do not capture with a b pawn. And now knight takes c5. If we take it, it's right. And now we're up a pawn, but it's a temporary advantage. Black goes queen d4 and forks both these pieces. Actually a knight is more valuable, so we moved a knight back and black regains the pawn with a better position, and white lost castling chances. So d3 played after knight f6 and bishop c5. Yeah, actually after d3 it's a real threat of bishop takes c6, because this pawn is now defended. Takes and take this pawn, and queen d4, knight f3, it's waste. Bishop c5 just, but now it actually bishop c5 targets this pawn, but also now it's a really bad move to do this due to d takes. And if you take this pawn greedily, now queen d4 comes up with a mate threat here, and that loses the game. If you play bishop e3, win the knight, and if you move the knight, I'll just chop it off, and this is a very curious thing. So that's not possible, and then due to that bishop c5, and now c3 played. Castles just standard moves d6, preparing the bishop. h3, he's scared of it, just blocking it away. a6, bishop a4. An important thing, usually the Ruy Lopez want to place it on c2, not on b3, and it might look active here, but it's better here because later you play d4 and this pawn will be supported with bishop c2. h6, even Carlsen is scared of bishop g5, rook e1 and b5. Now bishop b3 might be an option, but according to the Ruy Lopez, c2 tends to be better. Bishop b6, and now knight d2, knight e7, preparing d5, and maybe also knight g6. a4 played, just trying to collapse this structure, and rook b8, d4 now striking in the center. Knight g6 played, and now he's taking advantage of the thing that Gukesh has played knight d2, blocking this bishop. So this knight may come to f4. Knight f1, Gukesh reveals the bishop and can chop the knight off if it comes here. c5, usually in the Ruy Lopez you play this pawn break. Knight g3, he wants to maintain tension here on the center. Takes and takes this pawn, and there's a rule called to take is a mistake. Now this bishop is kind of passive here. Now because of Carlsen took this pawn, the bishop became a little more active. So bishop b7, just attacking this, d5 closing the position, a5 and bishop e3. Now the rule remains to take is a mistake, because now if black took, rook takes c3, and it's actually kind of better for white because we just allowed white to activate the piece. I don't know why the engine says it's the best move, but Carlsen followed the rule and went bishop c8. And now if Gukesh took on b6, rook takes b6 allows Carlsen to activate his rook and later attack this pawn, and many things can happen. So b3 played, just as I said, but Carlsen ignored the rule. He took rook takes and knight f4. And another reason for he traded these bishops were, as long as this bishop is here, can control this f4 square. So he took rook takes and now knight f4. Maybe f takes c3 was better, but simple knight f4. Bishop c6. Now Gukesh is a lot of counters. Carlsen just created an outpost for his knight, and Gukesh also wants to create an outpost with bishop c6, of course. Rook b4, just putting a lot of pressure here, but queen c2. Now the mistakes start to happen for Gukesh, and Carlsen starts finding the best moves. The advantage goes really good for Carlsen, but the endgame he blunders. g6 play, not the best move. King h1, just due to this thing. Bishop a6, queen a2, another mistake. Bishop d3, a great move for a stake. Knight d2, h5, another great move. Queen a5. Gukesh is kind of scared because black's pieces are too active and his king might be at risk, so he says, hey Carlsen, let's trade the queens. Takes, and heads for another great move. Rook a4. And actually the reason for Carlsen trading queens is Carlsen usually prefers endgames more than the middle game and the opening, because strength is at that. Traded h4 and k4 and rook b8. Carlsen follows the rule. To take is a mistake. Now if he took here, this pawn can take and it might become a passer. But due to rook b8, if Gukesh took, this rook will be extremely active. So rook a2, king g7, k7, just pinning this. d4, knight f3, and now h takes g3. It appears that white cannot take the rook and be an exchange up because of this move, and this promotion can never be stopped. So so Gukesh took, knight x h3. Not the best move. Bishop takes e4 was the best, but he lost a lot of his advantage. Still it's better for black. And now bishop takes e4. Rook d1, just setting up some mating nets of rook h1 mate. Like example, if white goes, it's over with rook h1 checkmate. So g4 played, just creating an escape square for the king. And bishop takes, d5 takes, and rook e2. Now he goes knight f4, just hacking the rook. Rook c2, king f6, h4, king e6, knight g5 check, king d5, a great move due to king f6 leads to an instant mate. So king d5 and rook a5 check, king d4, smarching in the king, and maybe threaten checkmate with it, but usually you want to bring your king to your opponent's side of the board in the end game. because the king is really a super piece for the end game. Yeah, but in the middle game and opening you shouldn't bring it. Okay, so goes rook a4 check, keeps marching in, rook f2, f6, first mistake of Magnus Carlsen. Rook f3 check, king e2, rook a2 check, rook d2 a great move, takes, e4, king e2 another great move, king g3, d5. Yeah, actually this was a fork, so has to give some pawn. d5, he says take this not so important pawn. So Gukesh does, and rook f8, just putting pressure here. Rook f2 check played, because can't actually take this pawn, thinking that you win material. Black won't take like this. Black plays the surprising knight h5 check, followed by winning this rook. Of course that didn't happen in the game. Gukesh played rook f2 check, then king e1 another great move, knight d7 played, and now this is the losing point for Magnus Carlsen. The best move is rook e8, that's the only good move, but Carlsen blunders the knight. Knight e2 blunder. You can see 2 question marks because the king is in check, and yeah, Gukesh goes rook takes e2, which is the only good move, and king takes e2 and knight takes f8. Now white is up a knight. It's very easy to win, but it still appears that this pawn cannot be stopped, but it can tactically be stopped, because d4, these moves were played in the game. Knight e6, d3, knight c5. Now Carlsen played king e3, but what if he plays d2? This technically looks unstoppable, but knight a4 wins for white. Only good move, because of d1 queen, knight c6 check, and when this h5 takes and this pawn can't be stopped. This didn't happen in the game, so Carlsen tried this and Gukesh played some move like this, then would lose again. So knight f4, a great move. This is the only move which works, because d2, knight c3, and e4 played. He makes a hope due to this connected passes. h5 takes and takes, king d2, knight b2, e3 played, knight c4, a great move, king e2, now king f4, and Carlsen just resigned, because if you move a king, it loses this pawn instantly, and if you play this, knight takes e3, this is stopped. So thank you guys for watching my video, and please do like this video and subscribe. I'll be right back. Yeah, gaming vibes.